Hello and welcome to World News here on TVP World. I'm Marie Cato. At least 19 people have been killed and over 100 have been wounded after the Russian army launched a massive drone and missile attack on Ukraine overnight into November 19th. The strikes targeted mainly Ukraine's energy infrastructure, forcing authorities to introduce emergency power cuts across the country. We now go to our correspondent in Kyiv, Oz Katerji. Good afternoon, Oz. There are more and more details emerging now after this awful attack from Russia. Can you give us some more details and what is your take on the situation?
Well, look, this is a fast-moving story at the moment. The death toll since we last spoke has nearly doubled. We've gone from 10 dead to 19 dead within the last hour. Search and rescue operations are still underway. All of those dead so far have been reported in Ternopil in western Ukraine. So a significant attack overnight with the Russians launching 476 drones, but more concerningly than the drones, they launched 48 missiles at the territory of Ukraine, largely targeting western Ukraine, Ivano-Frankivsk, Ternopil, and Lviv, which caused the Poles to scramble their jets in case anything entered into Polish airspace. But also Kharkiv, Sumy, Cherkasy, Kyiv region were also targeted in the attack. Obviously, Ternopil bearing the worst brunt of this. Now, as search and rescue operations are still underway, that death toll may continue to rise. So we'll keep bringing you the news of that. Again, as you said, energy infrastructure was targeted in this attack. So large parts of Ukraine are still suffering from rolling blackouts as Ukraine's energy infrastructure still struggles to deal with these Russian attacks and the colder weather. Now, we also have news from Zelensky, who is currently in Turkey for diplomatic talks in Ankara. He released a statement within the last hour saying every brazen attack on ordinary life shows that the pressure on Russia is insufficient. Effective sanctions and aid to Ukraine can change this. So the Ukrainians, the government here in Kyiv, is still pushing very hard for those secondary sanctions, for the kinds of sanctions they've been lobbying the Trump administration for, that they see as key to stopping attacks like this. But as you can see, the Russians certainly not showing any signs of slowing down on attacking civilians and civilian infrastructure here in Ukraine at the moment. Back to you.
Many thanks, Oz Katerji, reporting for us live from Kyiv. Following the weekend explosions on a railway track leading to Ukraine, Poland's Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski has made it clear that it was an act of state-sponsored terrorism. In an address to the Polish parliament this morning, he confirmed that Poland will take decisive measures against Russian authorities to communicate that this escalatory behavior will not be tolerated.
This is a significant escalation. Sabotage is when you damage property. When your intention is to kill people, that's no longer sabotage, that's state terrorism. And this is what we had in this case. There was a bomb that was set off under a Polish train, which only by a miracle wasn't derailed from a high escarpment. People would have died, either in that train or in the next trains. And therefore, we will not leave this unanswered. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I've already taken the decision, which will be officially communicated to the Russian authorities today or tomorrow, to close down their last consulate in Poland, in Gdańsk. We will also put further restrictions on the movements of Russian diplomats in Poland, but this will not be the end. We have only just identified the culprits. We will now, among various ministries, collect ideas for communicating to Russia that this is completely unacceptable.
Many people have forgotten or are simply unaware of the Kremlin's corruption and indifference to the value of human life since the Soviet Union fell apart. Stephen Moore, the founder of the Ukraine Freedom Project, told TVP World. Moore also said the West is now gradually waking up to how evil Russia's President Vladimir Putin really is.
There's a lot of people who don't have that memory of Russia. And, frankly, there is 15 years or something after the Soviet Union, when people thought Russia might be a country that could be part of the international community, and they weren't. They aren't. They're a culture that thrives on death. They're a death cult, and I think that one of the things we do is we educate Americans on that. And I just got a note from a very well educated author in his 20s who's written several books, and he said, I had no idea until I started talking to you how evil Putin is. And so and I think a big part of this is that nobody thinks that we're at war. I mean, we being the West. You look at Europe, they're slow walking everything. In America, as you point out, they've forgotten just how evil Putin is. So I think it's going to take something dramatic that's going to help people remember who the enemy is.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Turkey today to hold talks with his counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan and reportedly U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. According to Kyiv, the visit is intended to revive diplomatic talks between Russia and Ukraine.
Turkey was the host of two previous talks between Kyiv and Moscow earlier this year and in 2022. Both meetings yielded little results. It is reported that Washington will also restart efforts to bring about peace in Ukraine. According to the Wall Street Journal, a delegation led by U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll is to visit Kyiv today and then head to Russia.
According to a report by Axios, the White House and Moscow have been secretly working on a proposal to end Russia's war in Ukraine. According to an unnamed Washington official, U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Russian envoy Kirill Dmitriev have been extensively discussing a 28-point plan meant to bring peace to Ukraine.
According to the media outlet's report, the 28 points fall into four categories: peace in Ukraine, security guarantees, security in Europe, and future U.S. relations with Russia and Ukraine. It is unclear, however, how the plan approaches the most contentious issues, such as territorial control of eastern Ukraine. Russian forces have been inching forward in the region, but still control less ground than the Kremlin is demanding. The unnamed U.S. official also confirmed that Washington had started briefing European and Ukrainian officials about the plan and thinks there is a decent chance of getting both on board.
Ukraine's general staff is reporting that Kyiv's armed forces have successfully launched U.S.-made ATACMS supersonic tactical missiles at Russian military infrastructure, hitting intended targets.
The Ukrainian Armed Forces leadership called the attacks a breakthrough without specifying the targets or their locations. They also announced that ATACMS missiles will continue to be used to fight off Russia's war of terror. According to Reuters, Russian authorities confirmed the missiles were used by Ukraine's forces. This is the first ATACMS strike confirmed by Ukraine's general staff. ATACMS are US-made ballistic missiles with a range of 300 kilometers.
The European Commission will unveil a plan for a EU-wide military transport system to be activated during crisis situations. The initiative aims to link member states' transport systems to enable rapid movement of troops and military equipment across the continent. This comes in response to the threat posed by Russia and years of neglect that have left military logistics slow and fragmented. Moving equipment from Western to Eastern Europe can currently take weeks instead of days.
The European Union wants to identify the bottlenecks, traffic jams and stoppers that are preventing the movement of soldiers to Europe's frontline border states in the event of a hostile military attack. This is according to draft communiques of the European Commission's, that's the EU executive's military mobility package, expected to be unveiled in Brussels on Wednesday. Now, the Financial Times newspaper and Politico are both reporting that according to leaked versions of the draft copy of this 15-page policy document, it takes roughly 45 days to move military equipment from one side of the bloc to the other. This is exactly why the European Commission is putting forward its military mobility package to slash red tape and ease the national burdens to ensure that if Russia or another hostile actor poses a military aggression to the continent by 2030, Europe can respond in a timely manner. It also comes off the back of the United States signalling that it would remove troops from Europe's frontline states, particularly in the east, as well as Poland faces fresh sabotage attacks on its rail network. We know the EU's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, as well as the European Commissioner for Transport, Apostolos Tzitzikostas, will unveil the plan on Wednesday, hopefully making it easier to bring those troops to the front lines in a faster manner. Angela Scoogens from Brussels for TVP World.
The United Kingdom's counterintelligence agency MI5 has warned British lawmakers about China's attempts to spy on the British government. The government in London is committed to investigating in sovereign encryption technology to ensure sensitive data is safeguarded from espionage.
Our intelligence agencies have warned that China is attempting to recruit and cultivate individuals with access to sensitive information about Parliament and the UK government. MI5 have stated that this activity is being carried out by a group of Chinese intelligence officers, often masked through the use of cover companies or external headhunters. Let me speak plainly. This activity involves a covert and calculated attempt by a foreign power to interfere with our sovereign affairs in favour of its own interests. And this government will not tolerate it.
And that's all for World News. Thank you so much for joining us and stay tuned for more on TVP World. Goodbye.